you're working nonstop, stressed about money, and you're wondering how you'll ever be able to retire, well, this video is gonna be your turning point. Now, understand where I'm coming from. Like, I came from a place where I've been a financial advisor, learned how to not do everything. I've also been a person where I've been financially free at 28, but then when the recession hit, I went broke.
Veteran traders saying they've never seen anything like it.
And that means life, as most Americans know it, is about to change.
And then I had to go back and learn to do it again. And so I actually was able to retire twice by the time I was 39 years old. And the good news is you don't have to go through that same painful process. You can do it much easier, much faster. And it might sound too good to be true, but let's dive into these 5 steps that actually work for you right now. So first and foremost, you gotta start from the basics. You gotta start from the foundation. You gotta know where you're coming from. You gotta start diagnosing your cash flow. What does that mean? That means when you're looking at your money, you're looking at how much income is coming in, how much is going out with expenses, what am I spending? Know the full flow of your money. What so often happens is that most people will just look at their bank balances and either they'll feel great or they'll feel depressed. But they really don't analyze like what's creating the money in their bank account, right? You gotta know the cause if you wanna get the effect. And so the first thing you gotta do is know the cash flow. Because for example, you can't know how much passive income you need to be financially free if you don't know how much you're spending. And most people just think, I just spend whatever I make. Well, maybe that's true, but maybe it doesn't have to be true. Maybe it's just a situation where maybe you bring in $5,000 a month, but you only need to live on $4,000 a month. If that's the case, great. Now we've got a goal to work towards. So you gotta know what step 1 is. You gotta know where you're starting from. And I don't care how depressing you think it is, because the truth is this, is that in my situation, I was in the hole over $16,000 a month. That means I was short $16,000 a month. I was sinking fast. But it wasn't until I actually started to look at my money, that's when my life started to turn around. Yes, it was painful. Yes, it was hard. But by looking at my numbers, by actually being willing to accept that truth, you really need that hope to be the fuel that helps you get to your goals. All right, so step 2. One of the ways that also help reduce some of those expenses is stop losing money to the IRS and Wall Street, right? So for example, I get a lot of people, especially if they're business owners, where they've got money coming in. They say, Chris, I make good money, but I'm not sure where it's all going. Well, one of those key places they tend to lose a lot of money is in taxes. Now, if you're a W-2 employee, that could also still be the case. But there's usually less things you can do to free up money from the IRS. So I'm specifically talking to you as a business owner, or maybe you are a W-2 employee, but maybe you have a little side hustle. Or maybe you should have a side hustle so you can start capturing all these tax benefits that business owners get. And so one of the big things you gotta do is stop losing money to the IRS. Stop going to that same old CPA, the same old accountant who just spits out a tax bill at the end of the year or a tax return, says, here's what you're gonna get or here's what you gotta pay. Here's the problem, is that if they're not teaching those strategies right now, if they're not giving you the things that you need right now, you could be losing money year after year after year. I had one guy that was a dentist that he refused to set up a corporation. By the way, setting up a corporation could be one of the easiest ways to reduce your taxes right away. He didn't do it because his accountant said, no, you don't make enough money. This dentist was making $300,000 a year, and yet he said he doesn't need a business. One problem with that. One is he could get sued, and having a business can give you more protection. But 2, he was overpaying roughly about $30,000 a year in taxes. This accountant had been working with him for the last 20 years. Do the math. That means he's probably overpaid $500,000 in taxes. What if you can get that money back in your life to then use that to create passive income? That's the key. Also, a lot of you guys might be having money on Wall Street. You know, you have money in mutual funds or your S&P 500 ETFs or whatever it might be. Here's the thing, the stock market is running out of steam. It's about done. What if you could capture those gains, take it away from Wall Street, get into a place where it's safe, and then use that money to generate passive income so you can create financial freedom in the next 5 years. The very money, by keeping your money in Wall Street might be the very reason why you'll never be able to retire, or you might have to wait 20, 30, 40 plus years before you finally get that benefit. All right, now step 3. Many people say, okay, Chris, if I'm not putting money in the mutual funds or my S&P 500 or even my 401k for that matter, where I can't get to it for, till I'm 60, which by the way, a 401k is a bad option if you're trying to do this in 5 years, unless you're already about 60 years old. But if you're not, then use this instead, which is infinite banking. Now, infinite banking is a process, it's a system you use while utilizing the vehicle of whole life insurance. Now, whole life insurance is not like term insurance, which is just death insurance. Whole life insurance has a death benefit, but it also has this tax-free savings account inside of it. Now, the savings account that you have, you can access at any time. It's like a tax-free high yield savings account because right now they're paying like 6% a year. It's insane compared to what you'd be getting from your typical, even a high yield savings account. Yeah, you might make 4% a year, but when you pay taxes, you might walk away with maybe 3% a year. You can make double that with less risk using life insurance instead. And so that's one way you can actually store your cash and use it to have more money available to create passive income right now, which leads me to that fourth step, which is increase your income streams, right? How do you increase those? I don't just mean get more jobs, right? Because that's obviously not the plan. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. If there's other ways to create multiple streams of income, even active streams, this is great. What I'm referring to is the thing I keep talking about over and over, which is passive streams of income. What are the streams of income you can create? Now, if you start to build up your cash, I would say once you get well over $100,000, even $150,000, $200,000, now there's a reason we should be talking. By the way, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, do so, because if you find out that on our website, moneyripples.com, we've actually got a passive income calculator you can use. It's pretty awesome. But just so you know, we talk about these passive streams of income all the time on this channel, right? Things like things backed by real estate, for example, things backed by real assets. So it could be real estate, but not like the real estate where you buy next door and you have to deal with the tenants, the toilets, and the trash. I'm talking about being a passive, hands-off investor, meaning that you put your money with those people that are doing all the work. So for example, even if I do buy a property, I have property managers taking care of it for me. I also could do things like I lend my money to real estate investors, paying me easily 10, 11, 12% a year or more by lending my money to them where I become their bank. And the cool thing is, what if they don't pay me? Well, if they don't pay me, if I have any kind of collateral like the house or whatever that they're doing their deals on, guess what? If they don't pay me, I can take it back from them. Just like a bank repos it from you, you can repo the property from them, which usually has a lot more money inside of it than what they owe you. So there's a lot of ways to get secured money there. I can do things with oil and gas. Right now, oil prices are really low. Oil and gas, especially with the way Trump's talking lately, that might be a huge opportunity to be able to make some good passive income streams. Raw land, I mean, there's all kinds of things. You can do buildings, you can do Amazon warehouses, or even just normal warehouses. There's so many things you could do to create these multiple streams of income coming in that, again, your money works harder for you, so you don't have to work so hard for money. And that comes to the last step, is that ultimately you got to build a plan with the end in mind. This is the problem I see all the time. So many people will go and try to put money in that 401k. And then I'll ask them like, hey, when would you like to be financially free? Now, most people will say as soon as possible, right? But if they're trying to be realistic, they might say 10, 20 years. Cool, awesome. How old are you? 35. So why, if you want to be, say, financially free in 10, 20 years, why are you putting money in a 401k where you can't get to it till you're at least 59 and a half? Otherwise, they slap your hand with 10% penalties and tax you on top of that to the point where you have to delay that gratification. You realize I've had clients die before they ever got to enjoy their 401ks. So what if you can, again, get that money in the right places, right? So you want to make sure you have the right plan and the right vehicles to match up with that plan. Now, a lot of times people are like, well, where do I put it? Like, yeah, you talk about infinite banking, Chris, but is that the answer? No, it's not the answer. It's just one strategy you can use to help with it. But there's so many things you can do to help knowing where you can put your money so then you can invest it, and where are the right places to invest. Who are the right people to invest with? Who are the people that are liars versus those that are actually have good reputation, have been paying people for decades on their money? Where do you find those kind of people? Well, that's some of the things that we do. And so if you ever want some help creating your own freedom plan, especially if you want to get there in 5, 10 years, maybe less, if you want to do that, go to moneyripples.com/consulting and book a free strategy session with us right now. And you'll be able to walk away with a clear path, even if you're starting from scratch. Go do that today at moneyripples.com/consulting.